Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. So here we are on It Starts With You, with me, Vicky O'Farrell, the Queen of Behaviours. And my guest is James Perryman, a fellow DISC practitioner. I've known James through what is known as the PSA, the Professional Speaking Association. We're both currently in this role as regional presidents. I'm here in London and James is in the Northwest. James, would you just like to introduce yourself to the listener?
I would love to. Thank you, Vic. And I love the intro of you're in London and I'm in the Northwest. I don't know if I'd trump London because I get a whole region. I get a whole county, you get a city. And I'm in all of the Northwest, but thank you for inviting me to your wonderful podcast. So I'm James, as you said, a kind of practitioner with DISC and kind of other stuff around that whole behavioural psychometric piece. So I help individuals or small to medium-sized businesses kind of understand their potential to the best of their ability, whether that's through their people, through their assets, their processes, etc. Help them realize what they can achieve and get them on that journey towards it, and ideally stay with them on the journey. But sometimes they find their own feet, they've got what it takes. Sometimes they need a bit of hand holding along the way, but for me, it's the key is in that moment. That's why my business is called Momentous. It's the moment their eyes light up, it clicks, and they understand what they can accomplish. That's what it's all about.
So kind of a bit of a light bulb moment.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
I know that I had the light bulb moment when I was doing my coaching qualification. As part of that, with the coaching academy, we did the DISC system, and it was on my one day with them when I was doing DISC. And I've done loads of those psychometric tests when I was in the corporate world. You know, Myers-Briggs, Bellman, there's loads of them out there, but none of them ever really stuck. It was like a one-day course. Brilliant. Loads of notes. Got it as I walked out the door. But there was something about DISC that really went ping. And it was a light bulb moment for me. And that's when I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to focus on this. And that was 5 years ago when I did the whole train the trainer with the coaching academy. And it's well, if you've listened to any of the other episodes, especially the one that Amy interviewed me, I talk about what it meant for me to understand what my behaviours were and the impact that I had on others. So if I ask you, James, since you've done whatever profiling tool, I know you've done DISC and I know you're au fait with lots of the other ones as well, what has it actually meant for you as James Perryman, a business owner, James Perryman, a father, a husband? What has it meant for you really understanding what your own style is?
I think you coined the phrase just a few seconds ago about understanding yourself and your impact on other people, and they are two different things. And it's, I think, where I've qualified and studied emotional intelligence as well has really helped kind of bring all of that together about your own emotional impact on yourself and well-being on other people. And I think that's the difference it's made. I've if I look back through kind of personal or professional highs and lows, I've learned from them, but it was more why did that go wrong, or why did that go well? And always looked around at other things, other people, what was going on, what wasn't going on, and never at myself. And what was it about myself that made that situation unfold the way it did positively? What was it about me that caused that chaos, or that reaction, or that behavior, that emotional reaction? And I think through being aware of kind of own behavior and the impact it has on other people, and other people's behavior and the impact it has on me, has really helped me. It's helped me professionally because it's helped me coach people to the best of my ability because I can adapt how I coach them. It's helped me in a training environment because I can understand the room more, where I know their behavioral types, or I can pick up on some of the signals and the signs, or we do it in the room. And I think it's helped me work with my business clients as well, because it's kind of part of how we work together. We do some profiling, and it helps them and helps me. But I think that's kind of day to day. I think certainly from a personal perspective, I can see the difference it makes, and I think it's what helps make me a better father, and certainly a better father, a better husband, and probably a better friend, because I can anticipate how people might be feeling in a situation, what they might need from me in a situation, and I can anticipate how I might react to certain situations and the impact that has on other people. And I bring this to life through training with a couple of examples where, I can change something from becoming an absolute shit show, for want of a better word, into a way forward, even under pressure. Short on timescales, high stakes, etc. Can turn it into what do I need from this situation right now? What does the other person need from the situation right now? Let's have a positive way forward, rather than suddenly falling out.
And I think that's one of the big things for me. It's that whole reducing conflict and actually just stopping that big blow up, because a lot of people read the written communication differently, don't they? So if we talk about like profiles, for those that are listening, just a reminder, I'm what's known as an extreme I. So I'm an outgoing person, and I'm very much all about the people. I know when I go under pressure, I then go very much on the task focused things, but always stay on the outgoing side of things. And I know when I look back in my career, how I must just have irritated most of the people I worked with, to be quite frank. And actually, when I've interviewed my managers, some of them have said that I was quite exhausting. But we both do this role as a regional president. So we're both doing the same role voluntarily. And yet you're a different style to me. So talk about your style. What does it mean for you to be who you are and interact with others?
So let's stay with that language, with this language. So you and I, we're basically opposite. So you're high on the I, and you revert to that D, that real task focus. I'm the opposite. So I'm pretty equally high on the C and the S, so the compliant side of the world and the steady side of the world. And it's interesting because if you look at what sits underneath this in terms of introversion, extroversion, task and people focus, you would label me as an introvert, because my two strongest sides of this sit on that introverted side. But I am an extroverted introvert. I get my energy from being around other people. Now I can be on my own. There are times I want to be on my own, but it's not as often as wanting to be in a room, wanting to go for a drink at the end of a day. You just continue being around people. So I think it's important that I know where my energy comes from, but it's also important to know that I am an analytical, reflective type that likes a sense of order. I put order into my life, whether it's my day-to-day calendar, whether it's booking holidays and running through the list of currency, cars, transfers, hotels, blah, 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 blah. Or the importance to me, of minimizing kind of conflict and arguments with people in situations through that high steadiness. So I've come to realize, when I'm at my best, and also the situations that start to create a bit of fear, a bit of inner turmoil, based on the fact that I like that compliance and steadiness. And as I said, there are times when I feel that either of those can suddenly be impacted, where the steadiness goes and the order and the compliance falls out the window. And I sense it, I feel it, I feel the reaction in my body. And I know that that's when, maybe those fears, those anxieties are triggered because of who I am. And I can make a choice to let that unfold, or to take control of it by working out, actually, what do I need to get some semblance of order and harmony back in place.
Okay. So when you're dealing with someone like me, who is the polar opposite to you, that just, I find myself irritating and exhausting sometimes. But if you, for me, I can get overwhelmed. Yeah, I can get overwhelmed really quickly when I've got way too much on, and I don't have, as you call it, a sense of order and stability, and I don't have that compliance part of me. My C's on the floor. Rules and regulations are just merely a suggestion. They're to be broken. bent, not broken. I would never break the law, listener. But so how would you, if I was your client, how would you help me to overcome overwhelm?
And if it was you that was my client and you've got that high eye and then you kind of go to that real task focused under pressure, um, I would help you overcome overwhelm by same with anyone, by understanding the situations that create the overwhelm and finding ways in which you can minimize the things that overwhelm you, but without changing who you are, because you are who you are. And I sometimes work with people and they say, right, I need to be more compliant. If it's someone like you, and it's like, you don't need to be more compliant. You just need some strategies in place that stop you ending up having too much stuff going on, which triggers into the overwhelm, and thinking about how you manage your time and energy during the day. So if I said to you, Vicky, right, let's work on this one thing all day. 10 minutes in, I know you'd be throwing stuff at me or saying, should we just quickly look at that email, or should we just have a look at this website, or can I just ask you this? So it's pointless me even setting that kind of failure up. I'm better off saying, right, let's look at this for 20 minutes, and then at 20 minutes saying, right, do you know what, should we go for a coffee, and switching it up, because I need to play to your energy. So I know what we need to get done at the end of the day. We can agree what we need to get done at the end of the day or the end of a meeting, but I need to do it in a way where there's enough of a mix of stuff going on to appease your high eye. And I mean that in a good way. There's enough outcomes. So at the end of it, you go, we got some good stuff done. We made some decisions. We made some actions. We took some risks. We acted in a bold way, but I had fun along the way doing it. That's a good outcome. And as long as I know we've roughly stuck to the agenda of what I wanted to get done, and I feel I was heard, and we've got a good outcome, we'll both be happy.
Well, you've just described my perfect day. If I was spending a day in an office with someone else and we were doing like a strategy day, that absolutely is right, because I know you say that about after 10 minutes I would. So when I do, okay, I'm recording a podcast, so absolutely I turn myself off. But if I really need to focus on something, I have to put my do not disturb on the Mac. Otherwise an email will come in, or I'll get a notification on my phone from a social media, and I'll suddenly go, oh, bright shiny thing, and there I am, I'm off. Whereas you, I would assume, knowing your style, you can just stay focused and not be distracted.
More so, I do get distracted, but I think that what has also helped when understanding behavior is what distracts me, or more importantly, what triggers my procrastination. And I think I had this, not an epiphany moment, but I think it dawned on me on the back of a training course probably about 6 months ago, when I was talking with one of the delegates about procrastination. And I said, as a high C, I know I procrastinate when I'm starting something for the first time that I've not done before, because I have a fear of getting it wrong. So I just won't start it. I'll put it off. I'll put it off. I'll put it off. And I can think of, stuff from a work perspective I've not started yet because I'm not sure if I'll get it right, even though I know what I'm doing. At home, there's a box in the office of new flooring, which I can follow the instructions and make it, because that's what I love doing. But I've never done it before. So it's still in a box until I've got the courage to stop bloody procrastinating and move forward and just do it. So I think sometimes it is about just recognizing that and moving forward and just getting on with it.
Yeah. And when you talk about like in terms of that high C style, like, paralysis of analysis. So I also work with my husband, and as my husband, he's very similar to me in terms of the high I energy and stuff like that. But when he's in work mode, he flips and he becomes a very high C. And I get it, because he's in construction and you need to, but there'll be times when I'd have done a proposal, typed a proposal for him and stuck it on his desk, and there's typos in there, because I'm very much a tippity tap tip print. Just like, I'll correct it before it goes to the client. But I never realised why it wound him up until I profiled him and went, you change. When we work together, you change. I could see it would really rile him. So now I make sure that actually I read it, I reread it, I double check it, and I print it when it's correct. Because you say that high C, it's, if you're going to do a job, it's worth doing it well and correctly and on time.
And I think it's interesting. And I bet you've had people before say to you, when they're about to do the assessment and get a profile, Vicky, do you want the work me or the home me? And I get this, and I say to people, like, I want you, and if we're doing this in a professional capacity, it's to help you with work. Then maybe go more with that angle, but I said you're you, and it just might be whether things dial up or dial down. And I give an example where I say, my wife, when she was in her career, she's like you, very, very high I&D, and she's making decisions all day. She's quite senior in the business, so sometimes pretty crappy decisions, bad out, not the best of outcomes, but she's got to make the decisions. Now, when she got home, she didn't suddenly become like me and very compliant and steady. She just wanted to chill out. And because, she said, I've spent all day or week, doing this stuff. So imagine it's a Friday night and we can't be bothered to cook, and we're trying to choose what to take out. And I say, what should we get to eat? And she's like, James, I don't mind. Like, you choose. It's absolutely fine. So I go into analysis mode and work out, when did we last have an Indian or a Chinese or a pizza? Do the analysis and say, let's have a Chinese. And she'll say, I don't want Chinese. So she can make the decision, but it doesn't have to be there in front, but it's still her. It's just dialed down. And I think that's important when people recognize, when I am behaving like me or when I'm still me, I just don't have to, it doesn't have to be as overt.
No. And I think, especially if you think about the roles that we do, so very much so, before I set this business up and was in a corporate role in London and on a 601 train out of Brighton every day, I would get to the weekends and I'd be like, I don't want to make decisions. But you're right. I love that analogy that you've just done in terms of, well, apart from the fact that you worked out when you last had an Indian or a pizza or a Chinese. I mean, that's just a little bit, a bit too much. But the fact is, you gave your wife, Sandra, you said your name was, you gave Sandra the option and she says no. So she does make the decision, but you've given her, and actually I hadn't thought of it like that, because there would be times when they'd be like, I don't want to make a decision what we're doing this weekend. I really don't. And then Mark could suggest something, go, no, I don't want to do that. But I always thought, it's not my personality. That's just me being a stroppy wife because I don't want to do it. But you're right. It's the fact that actually I have that D style in me. I want to make the decision, but I want you to give me the choices. I don't want to have to do all of the analysis and think about what are all the options that we could do. Just come to me with 2 options and I'll tell you which one we're going to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. So where in terms of the business world, so you've been doing your business 2015, I believe you set up, didn't you? So
end of 2015.
Yeah, you talk about individuals or small to medium-sized businesses that you work with. What impact have you had with clients? What's been one of your big, like, wow moments where the clients you've made a real difference to them?
I think certainly on an individual basis, I think, there's one client who, from a real personal perspective, they were getting married. And it was quite important for them. They wanted to recognise their granddad, who had been a really important figure in their life, and it was a communication. They wanted to do their speech at a wedding, and they wanted to remember that person, but holding their emotion. And so what transpired was there was the stuff around what they wanted to say, but there was about how do I engage a room of people so that they understand my intent, where I'm coming from, but I want them to laugh, I want them to cry, I want them to reflect. And this was the first session I had, or first few sessions I had with this person. They'd come to me for this reason. And so we talked it through. I said, well, in the room, there will be people who they want the excitement. There are people who want to know, what am I going to get from this talk? Are you here to make me laugh? Are you here to make me cry? What's the outcome? People who want to know, feel the story is progressing, and people who just want to connect with you emotionally. And I said, work on these bases, and let's help you put the story together, and then I can help you with your emotional resilience and being emotionally intelligent through it. So we did that. He got married. He gave the speech, and he said from his perspective, he was, he almost cried, but he didn't. He got laughs. He got the tears. He had people coming up to him after saying, that was brilliant. Your granddad would be really proud. And so I was happy that he'd achieved what he wanted to achieve, and he felt happy. And so we continued our coaching relationship, and that's where behavior then really came into it. And one good example is where he was a manager of a children's home, and there's a lot of regulation that goes in it, and particularly when they've got to intervene when things happen. And he said there's a form we've got to fill in, and he said most of my team do it, but there's one person who just does not fill it in properly. I don't, they know why it's important. We've got to fill it in. If we get audited, we can't have gaps. And so we'd done profiling, and so we did a bit of independent profiling of his team, and particularly this person, and it worked out that he was probably quite high on the eye side. Well, we were using a different method, but high on the eye side. And I said, what you're trying to do effectively is give him a process, tell him to follow the process. There's no room for creativity, being in the moment. Why don't you get him to redesign the form that everyone will use, but just say, we need to freshen it up. This form has been in place for months. Could you freshen it up for me? And I said, I guarantee he'll probably put some colors, some pictures, some icons, but let him do it. And he did. And this form came back and it was more vibrant, real left brain, right brained. And he said he's filling it in 100% of the time, as is the rest of the team. And I said, that's just, you think about what it is that people need or what's holding them back. And he's then become one of my greatest evangelists in terms of coaching and telling other people. I think, there's highlights around helping people step away from their careers and start their own business, go self-employed, or cut out the noise of what they think they want in their career and become laser focused on what they're really good at. And often that comes from either increasing their self-awareness around their behavioral preferences or a bit around their values and what's important to them. Because, there's the lines blur sometimes, I think, between, your values, what motivates you, and also how you like to communicate and behave. But sometimes one of those tools or those angles is the one that cracks it open more than another. From a business perspective, I think, if I think of two recent businesses, one I'm with today, kind of locally in the Northwest, we've turned them from a family-run business, successful, a managed services business, but where there was zero investment in their people, zero understanding of what people wanted, what motivated them. They just came in because they felt a sense of loyalty. Now they've got practices in place that helps people want to grow, want to develop. They enjoy training courses. They want to know what's next for them in the business. They want to learn more knowledge, learn more about the impact they can make on each other and on customers. And then the other client I was thinking of, just a little further north, up in Wigan, a telecoms company, we've completely transformed how they manage their relationship with customers, and they're international, both sides of the pond, and now they engage with their customers. They know how they feel. They're proactive with them. They're not afraid if a customer says we need to move on, which could be purely for logistical reasons. They make it a great experience because you never know when a customer might come back. So, there's some of those real engaging, motivational light bulb things that we've helped with, individuals or businesses.
And interesting, you just said there, the client in Wigan, that they're international, so on both sides of the pond, I think you said, or whatever it was. So in terms of behaviours, how does it impact when you're dealing with different cultures geographically?
I think I guess, having what I've learned about behaviour, more closer to home, that's my point of reference. What are most people that I'm interacting with or have interacted with in and around the UK. As during my career, as I've then worked with people wider across Europe, we see that they behave in slightly different ways, and I think that's having a view of behaviour such as DISC gives us a language. So whilst we wouldn't say, a typical profile in Germany or Spain or Italy or America or China or Russia or wherever else is very heavily skewed towards they're all D's or they're all I's or whatever. We can use some of the language and say, actually, what we will see is, when I've worked with colleagues in Germany, they are more likely to just get to the point and tell me like it is. But that doesn't mean you don't have anyone that's, thinking about the team harmony, the team, how the team are feeling, or being spontaneous or in the moment. It could just be a language style, a communication style. and that helps people know how to behave when they're in a different environment, a different culture, while still being true to themselves and without pigeonholing anyone. And because for me, that's that's one of the classic downfalls with behavioral tools is you pigeonhole people, and can't do that. We absolutely can't do that. I think it's recognize the cultural norms in different cultures, and that it might feel like people are being different from a behavior perspective, but actually we've still got a spread. We'll still have qualities of all those four kind of aspects of DISC, no matter where you work. Because part of it comes down to culture, but also the business sector, and and what's needed in a job or in a company versus what's not.
Absolutely. And we talk about the whole diversity piece and that's all. We talk about race, religion, and all of that kind of stuff, but actually we need diversity in terms of personality. Because I know if I'm outsourcing anything in my business and I'm using the gig economy, the first thing I do is profile them, because I'm like, you have to fit with me, not you have to be a high I like me, because who's picking up all the detail that I keep dropping and missing. And so it's making sure that there is a blend of all the different styles, and I use the three terms of recognizing, understanding, respecting our differences, because there's a place for everybody. Certainly not pigeonholing, certainly not labeling, no excuse for bad behavior. It is just knowing what your strengths are, and don't try and be somebody that you're not. I've had clients, like you've just said, oh, I need to be far more yellow and peoply, and I'm like, why? You'll find it exhausting. It's not your natural style. Question there, you did mention the word values. What would you say was your strongest value?
My strongest value, great question. I think authenticity is a strong, well, I think, because anyone can say, it is, authenticity is a strong value. I want, and it kind of follows on from what we're saying, I want people to be themselves. Like you said, don't be an idiot. There's no excuse for bad behavior, but be you. If you want to be in the moment and full of energy and excitement, don't rein it in. Be you, and we'll take it forward. If you want to show me the detail and take me through your multi-complex spreadsheet, take me through your multi-complex spreadsheet. We'll work it through. So be you, but I think be present, which I guess might be another value. Be, when you're in a conversation with someone, listen. And it takes effort to listen properly, but listen and be present and hear what is being said. I think one of the things that probably frustrates me the most is hypocrisy. So I think for me that ties with being authentic. Don't act one way with one person and completely different with another, or ask something of me that you wouldn't do. I'm quite quick to call that out when I see it, because I think it touches a nerve if I see it.
And I think that's the thing with values. In terms of personalities, you can read people's body languages, the words that they use, that the whole, everything that they do, you can read that, but you can't read someone's values. Values are very much the bottom of the iceberg, aren't they? And I feel that your personality, your dominant style, your strongest style is generally what you go through life, unless you were like Phineas Gage and had a very nasty accident to your frontal lobe. But I think your values will change depending on your life's experiences. I know for me in the last year, there's been a lot that's gone on in my life that my values have changed. And so, but it's recognizing it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it's why I love doing what I do. And I know it's why you love doing what you do. It's about getting people to look in that mirror, because as the podcast is, it starts with you.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. And people say, will I change when I get older? Or I found as I've got older, I've cared less about stuff. And so you've because you've learned more. You've learned what makes you happy. You've learned what frustrates you, and you've learned that actually I don't want to spend time with stuff that frustrates me and holding on to emotions that are just no good. So I might be a bit quicker to tell someone that they annoy me. It doesn't suddenly make you a super high D. It just means you're making slightly different choices, and it's adapting slightly. But once our kind of blueprint is locked in, it's pretty locked in. And as you say, it's either life-changing events that will change us, for the better or worse. But we are who we are. So be who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you say, when you actually can recognize your own style, that yes, perhaps the person who says, well, if somebody annoys me, I might tell them a little quicker. But it's also recognizing that actually, if I did that in a really high red style, that could come across as a bit rude and arrogant. So I just need to know that. A complete tangent here, but then I'm storytelling. There was an email that I received last night at 9:30 last night, and it really riled me. And I showed it to my husband, and it actually riled him a little bit as well. And I said, no, I'm going to sleep on it, and I'm going to deal with it tomorrow, because I know before I did all of this and before I knew my style, I would have just ranted back on this email. Explosion happened, conflict, broken relationship. But actually, as it is, I shall end the relationship, but in a very professional way, that actually someday in the future we may work together. But right now, it's not a client for me. So, yeah. So as we come to the end of this, can't believe it. It's been amazing chatting with you. So how can people get hold of you if they want to work with you? Because this is the other thing that I'm always about. It's like, find a coach, find someone to help you with your business, be it masterclasses, training, whatever it is you need. But you've got to find the right one that fits with your business. So we're polar opposites. So people who need a James style will not be somebody who needs a Vicky style. We'd probably, some of your clients would probably not, want me in there, and vice versa. So if people want to get hold of you, how can they get hold of you, James?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm just going to add to what you just said, and you're right. There might be clients who want and prefer my style to yours, but what's also important is for me to recognize sometimes they need a Vicky style because they got used to how I manage them, and I can maybe dial up, that D in the I, but if it's not me, it won't be authentic. I would rather say, Vicky, I need you to come in for a half-day session because I need you in the room. The client needs you in the room. I need you to come in, sprinkle fairy dust, provoke them, prod them, make them wonder what on earth has just happened, and then go away and let me clear it up. But I need, and that's important to recognize. How can people get hold of me? My business is called Momentous, which is Moment and US. So search for momentous.uk.com, go onto LinkedIn, find James Perryman. I look like this for those of you who are watching. Otherwise, you'll find me. It's James Perryman and number 1. I'm on Twitter as well, either as James Perryman or Momentous. And so just have a follow. I'm kind of regularly-ish posting on LinkedIn, thoughts, questions, challenges, stuff to get you thinking. So if you've got a question, please get in touch. If you want to know a bit more, please get in touch.
And you will find in the show notes all of James's contact details if you do want to get hold of him. James, that's been a really insightful conversation. I hope people have got to learn something from that, actually realizing that people who are polar opposites like you and me can actually get on and have a conversation and also do the same job, because it's not about, putting people in boxes. So
100%. Thank you for inviting me, Vicky.
Pleasure. Thanks, James. How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.